Good morning, everyone. My name is Tammy Sadler-Jones. I'm the City Administrator, and I would like to call to order the License and Variance Board meeting for Wednesday, June 24th at 10 o'clock a.m. Board members present. To my left is Roy Akery, the Fire Chief, and to his left is Frank Martin, the Public Works Director. Heather Pekin-Corn is our City Clerk, and she will be taking the official meeting minutes. First item is a public hearing, variance request V20-020, allow additional accessory structure, land lot 599, 3639, Hickory Circle. Tara Leggett is the applicant. Will you step forward, please? You can remove your mask if you so choose to, but can you state your name?
Chris Leggett. I'm Tara's spouse.
Okay, all right. And Mr. Leggett, you actually have two items, so we will go through them individually. So can you tell us about your first variance request?
The first variance request is adding a structure which will be a garage and a loft apartment, if you will, above it.
All right. At this time, we're going to have our staff, Caitlin Crow, give comments about the first item. And you can actually sit at that very first seat there because we'll be calling you back up again. Thank you.
All right, good morning. Just going to remove the mask so you can hear me a little bit better. So good morning, Caitlin Crow, Planner 1 Community Development. It's good to be back up here seeing you guys. So I am going to go ahead and review both of the variances together since they both are kind of intertwined here. So the first variance is V20-020 to allow an additional accessory structure. And the second variance is V20-021 to allow an increase in the accessory structure from 25% to 38% of the primary structure. So the subject property is located on the east side of Hickory Circle. The applicant is proposing to build a new two-car detached garage in the rear of the property. The maximum number of accessory structures and the maximum allowable size for an accessory structure is based upon the standards established in Section 501.11. The subject property is currently undergoing a complete renovation, including a small addition and a new swimming pool. The applicant plans to completely renovate the interior of the home, as well as construct 188 square foot of additional living space to form a porch and a small addition to the living room. The existing and proposed addition to the primary dwelling structure will total 3,028 square feet. The proposed detached garage will be 1,248 square feet, which is equivalent to that 38% of the primary structure. This does exceed that maximum allowed floor square footage of 25% of the primary building. The two-story detached garage will provide a loft on the second floor. It will consist of 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, and a kitchen. Per the applicant in the floor plans, the kitchen will not have a stove, thus it does not require a full second kitchen and thus a third variance. Community Development believes the variances requested are reasonable and are in the minimum variances needed for these two. If approved, Community Development believes there should be no adverse impacts to the adjacent properties. It has been properly posted with no site distance issues. After reviewing the variance application, staff does support the request and recommends approval to allow an additional accessory structure and to allow an increase in accessory structure size from 25% to 38% of the primary structure with the following conditions. There are 4 stipulations. Number 1, approval of the requested variance shall be conditioned upon the development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan and elevations submitted with the variance application. Number 2, the proposed garage must be treated in the same architectural style as the existing home, including but not limited to material type, color, and roof type. Number 3, the proposed garage shall not be rented or occupied for gain. And number 4, these conditions shall run in perpetuity with the property and as such are also applicable to any future owner. And with that, I can answer any questions.
Any questions for the staff?
I just had one, just for clarification. The first one, so this will be an additional accessory structure because of the pool, is that right?
Correct, exactly.
Okay, so
The
that's
pool
two.
is considered an accessory structure.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Leggett, do you accept the 4 conditions as stated for this first item?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. This is a public hearing. If anyone has any comments about this item, please step to the podium at this time. Seeing no one, I would like to entertain a motion, please. Turn your mic on, Frank.
Sorry. Make a motion to approve variance request V20-020, allow additional accessory structure, land lot 599, 3639 Hickory Circle.
I'll second the motion and add with the 4 stipulations as read into the record by staff.
It's been motioned and properly seconded that we approve variance request V20-020. All in favor, please vote by hand. All right, motion passes unanimously. Next item is a public hearing, variance request V20-021, increase in accessory structure size from 25% to 38% of primary structure, land lot 599, 3639 Hickory Circle. Tara Leggett is the applicant. Mr. Leggett, do you have any additional comments about the second variance request?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. Kate, okay. And Mr. Leggett, do you accept the 4 conditions as stated for this variance request?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Any questions? This is a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak regarding this issue, please step to the podium at this time. Seeing no one, I would like to entertain a motion, please.
Motion to approve V20-021 to increase accessory structure size from 25 to 38% of primary structure, land lot 599-3639 Hickory Circle, for Tara Leggett as the applicant with the 4 stipulations as read into the record by staff.
Second.
Motioned and properly seconded that we approve variance request V20-021. All in favor, please vote by hand. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item is a public hearing, variance request V20-022, allow accessory structure in front yard, land lot 560, 1450 Walker Street. Matthew, is it Ivy? Okay. For the record, can you please state your name?
Yes, it's Matthew Ivy.
Okay, and Mr. Ivy, can you please tell us about your variance request? You actually have 3. We will vote on them individually, but if you want to just summarize your 3 requests, that would be great for us.
Sure. So I'm looking to add a garden shed to my backyard. It says front yard because my property has roads on 3 sides, so consider the backyard is based on zoning, consider the front yard. So I'm looking to knock down the existing shed because that was purchased with the house that's very old and dilapidated at this moment, and looking to move it further back in our property.
Any questions for the applicant at this time? All right, this time we'll have Ms. Caitlin Crow make comments.
All right. Caitlin Crow, Planner 1, Community Development. So again, I am going to read all 3 of them together so that expedite it a little bit. So the first variance is V20-022 to allow an additional accessory structure in the front yard. V20-023 is the second variance to reduce the front setback from 35 feet to 10 feet. And the third variance is V20-028 to reduce the side setback from 10 feet to 5 feet. So this subject property is located at the intersection of Morris Circle and Walker Court. The applicant is proposing to remove the existing shed and replace it with a new one further back, as Mr. Ivy said. So the regulations pertaining to accessory structures and uses are located in Section 501 of the zoning ordinance. The new proposed shed will be 192 square feet have nice wood siding, and sit on a gravel pad. The applicant is proposing the new shed in the southwest corner of the yard, approximately 5 feet from the side property line and 10 feet from the front property line. So as Mr. Ivy pointed out, this property does have 3 road frontages, so it creates a very narrow space where he could put a new shed. So the chosen location does allow for more use out of the yard and give him a better area to work with. Additionally, along the property line, there's a 6-foot wooden privacy fence to provide a buffer to that adjoining property. A strict application of the relevant provisions would deny the applicant any ability to place an accessory structure on his yard due to those 3 road frontages. And thus he does have 3 front yards, making it a little difficult. Community Development believes the variances requested are reasonable and are the minimum variances needed. If approved, Community Development believes there should be no adverse impact to the adjoining neighbors. It has been properly posted with no sight distance issues per the city engineer. He did go out there to take a look since it is there on the corner. After reviewing the variance application, staff does support the requests and recommends approval to allow an accessory structure in the front yard, to reduce the front setback from 35 feet to 10 feet, and to reduce the side setback from 10 feet to 5 feet, with the following condition. Approval of the requested variance shall be conditioned upon the development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan and elevation submitted with the variance application. With that, I can answer any questions.
Any questions for the staff?
Yeah, hey, Caitlin. So, just kind of for the sake of the record, this first one specifically, and I think even another one, it references, literally verbatim, allow accessory structure in front yard, but this is one of those situations where if we were to physically go to the house, and I'm looking at the site plan now, we would assume that this is in something that we would call the backyard. And the reason why we're calling it the front yard is because this property, like many others in the city, has multiple road frontages, right, at an intersection of a road. And this one, a little bit even more unique, it has a road frontage on the front, the side, and the back. Mm-hmm. So basically, by the letter of the way we measure things and have language and ordinances, this person has no technical backyard. They have 3 front yards, which sounds ridiculous. And I just wanted to, where this really, even though it reads allow accessory structure in the front yard for the shed, it really isn't the front yard. Mm-hmm. It's the backyard. It's just a technicality. Right.
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ivy, do you accept the one condition as stated?
I do.
Okay. This is a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak regarding this issue, please step to the podium at this time. All right. Seeing no one, I would like to entertain a motion for the first variance.
I make a motion to approve variance request V20-022, allow accessory structure in front yard, land lot 560, 1450 Walker Street.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly seconded that we approve variance request V20-022. All in favor, please vote by hand. All right, motion passes unanimously. Next item is a public hearing, variance request V20-023, reduce front setback from 35 feet to 10 feet for an accessory structure, land lot 560, 1450 Walker Street. Matthew Ivy is the applicant. Mr. Ivy, you got any comments about your second one?
I do not.
Okay, all right. Ms. Crow, you have any statements for the applicant or staff? All right. And Mr. Ivy, do you accept the one condition as stated for this variance request?
I do.
Okay, all right. This is a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak regarding this issue, please step to the podium at this time. All right, seeing no one, I would like to entertain a motion, please.
Motion to approve variance request V20-023 to reduce front setback from 35 to 10 feet for an accessory structure, land lot 560, 1450 Walker Street. Matthew Ivy is the applicant with the one condition as read into the record by staff.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly seconded that we approve variance request V20-023. All in favor, please vote by hand. All right, motion passes unanimously. Next item is a public hearing. Variance request V20-024, reduce side setback from 10 feet to 5 feet for an accessory structure, land lot 560, 1450 Walker Street, Matthew Ivy. Mr. Ivy, any comments about this last variance request?
Not at this time.
Okay, all right. Ms. Crowe? Okay, all right. Mr. Ivy, do you accept the one condition as stated?
I do.
Okay. All right, this is a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak regarding this issue, please step to the podium at this time. All right, seeing no one, I would like to entertain a motion, please.
I make a motion to approve variance request V20-024, reduce side setback from 10 feet to 5 feet for an accessory structure, land lot 560 at 1450 Walker Street.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly seconded that we approve variance request V20-024. All in favor, please vote by hand. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. Next item is a public hearing, variance request V20-025, reduction of driveway setback from 5 feet to 2.6 feet, pardon me, for the construction of a new single-family home, land lot 523, 3105 Dunn Street. Ashley Stover? Good morning. For the record, can you please state your name?
Barry Hawkins,
Okay, all right.
representing Ms. Stover.
Okay, all right. And can you tell us about Ms. Stover's variance request, please?
Yes, ma'am. The house under construction has a side entrance garage, and just for ease of parking, pulling into the garage, we just request that be reduced to 2.5 feet instead of 5 feet.
Any questions for the applicant's representative?
So again, back to the site plan, it looks like that the distance from the proposed driveway to the property line isn't the 2 feet all the way to the curb cut, right? Because you're going to use the existing curb cut.
Correct.
And then at some point, like enter through the existing curb cut and then
Curve toward the property
curve
line.
towards the
Correct,
property.
yes.
So it's a portion of
Yes.
that distance that would be 2 feet, not the entire length.
Correct.
Right, okay. Thank you.
At this time, we'll have Ms. Caitlin Crowe give comments for the staff, please.
All right, again, Caitlin Crowe, Planner 1 Community Development. So this variance is V20-025 to reduce the driveway setback from 5 feet to 2.6 feet. The subject property is located on the east side of Dunn Street near the intersection of Legion Drive. The applicant is proposing to demolish the existing single-family house on the property and then building back a new single-family detached residence with that side entry garage that Mr. Hawkins mentioned. The development standards established by the city for the R15 zoning district require a minimum driveway setback of 5 feet. The applicant would like to reduce the driveway setback to 2.6 feet in order to create the necessary turning radius into the side entry garage. As the driveway approaches Dunn Street, the driveway setback increases to about 20 feet to use the existing curb cut of the existing driveway that was just discussed. Community Development believes the variance requested is the minimum variance needed to build this new home with a side entry garage. And Community Development does not foresee any negative impacts to adjacent properties should this variance be approved. Similar variance requests have been approved in the past just down the road at 3144 Dunn Street. That was in 2016, and 3145 Dunn Street, also 2016. This property has been properly posted with no site distance issues. And after reviewing the variance application, staff does support the request and recommends approval to reduce the driveway setback from 5 feet to 2.6 feet with the following condition. Approval of the requested variance shall be conditioned upon the development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan and elevations submitted with the variance application. With that, I can answer any questions.
Any questions for the staff? Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Mr. Hawkins, on behalf of the applicant, do you accept the one condition as stated?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. This is a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak regarding this issue, please step to the podium at this time. All right, seeing no one, I would like to entertain a motion, please.
Motion to approve V20-025, reduction of driveway setback from 5 feet to 2.6 feet for the construction of a new single-family home. Land lot 523-3105 Dunn Street for Ashley Slover as the applicant with the one condition as read and directed by staff.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly seconded that we approve variance request V20-026. All in favor, please vote by hand. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much. All right. Next item is I think I read that, V20-025, pardon me. Do you need us to revote? Okay, all right. Pardon me, I mixed up on the number. Public hearing, variance request V20-026 allows second kitchen in existing dwelling unit, land lot 524, 3150 Lee Street. Gary A. Gilmer is the applicant. Can you step to the podium? And for the record, can you state your name?
Good morning, Gary Gilmer.
Okay, all right. And Mr. Gilmer, you have 3 requests, so we will vote on them individually. So if you want to summarize your request for all 3, that will be fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Basically, we have the 3 variances we submitted. The front yard setback, which the current home is already at that setback, and we would just be expanding on the home within the same distance from the street. It's critical to the whole elevation of the home that we've proposed on the elevation and the floor plan. Secondly, we have the driveway, which is over on the left-hand side of the driveway, and to get access into the new garage, we'd need to take the driveway to the property line. As we only have 20 feet from the property line to the garage as of now, to make that turning radius. And then lastly would be the kitchen above the garage, and that's really for multiple reasons. Temporarily, it's going to serve as the resident or the dwelling for the current owners to occupy this while the main house is being renovated. And secondarily, after he's all done, then he has elderly parents that would live with him, and so they could all be together.
Any questions for the applicant? Okay. All right. Ms. Caitlin Crow, if you will give comments, please.
Caitlin Crow, Planner 1 Community Development. So again, these are 3 variances. I'll combine them all for ease. The first variance is V20-026 to allow for a second kitchen. The second variance is V20-027 to reduce the front setback from 35 feet to 17 feet. And the third variance is V20-028 to reduce the driveway setback from 5 feet to 0 feet. So this subject property is located on the west side of Lee Street near the intersection of Lee Street and Stonegate Lane. The applicant is proposing to renovate the existing single-family home by adding a garage with a loft above, in addition to the front and rear as well. Because the subject property is a single-family residence, the additional kitchen would constitute a second living unit, which is prohibited per the definition of a single-family dwelling. The development standards established by the city for the R20 zoning district require a minimum driveway setback of 5 feet and a front setback of 35 feet. The overall scope of the proposed project includes a side entry garage, as Mr. Gilmer pointed out, with a loft space above as well as an addition, roughly 2,889 square feet. The subject property was constructed in 1935 and has a non-conforming front setback, as was mentioned. The applicant is proposing to build the addition in line with the current house structure, thus requiring that front setback reduction. Additionally, the existing one-story structure is only 1,200 square feet, while the minimum house size of R20 is 2,100 square feet. With the two additions, the home will be roughly 4,000 square feet, bringing the home further into compliance. In order to build this new side entry garage, the applicant would like to reduce the driveway setback to 0 feet in order to create that necessary turning radius to access the side entry garage. The existing driveway is on the property line currently, so the applicant is proposing to continue the existing curb cut of the driveway to limit that amount of land disturbance in the area. The applicant is requesting the allowance of a kitchen in the proposed attached garage to be used for family during construction on the larger addition and will not be rented or occupied for gain. The loft space will include a full bedroom, a bathroom, and a kitchen when completed, and similar variances have been approved in the past when the structure's been part of the home. It has been properly posted with no site distance issues. After reviewing the variance application, staff does support the request and recommends approval to allow a second kitchen, to reduce the front setback from 35 feet to 17 feet, and to reduce the driveway setback from 5 feet to 0 feet with the following 4 conditions. Number 1, approval of the requested variance shall be conditioned upon the development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan and elevations submitted with the variance application. Number 2, the garage addition is to be utilized by family members only. Number 3, the applicant shall not lease, rent, or sublet any space in their home. And number 4, these conditions shall run in perpetuity with the property and as such are applicable to any future owner. With that, I can answer any questions.
Any questions for the staff?
I've got a question from Mr. Gilmer. Hey, good morning, sir. So I apologize, I didn't hear when you introduced yourself. Are you the property owner, or are you the one doing the work, or?
The one doing the work.
Okay.
The property owner is here.
Okay, here today?
He is.
Okay. So really, you guys just heard the stipulations as read into the record by staff, and specifically several of them focus on the fact that if approved, there would be a second full kitchen, which is, kind of something that historically the city of Smyrna has been, very aware of. And, so that's why those stipulations are in there. So just, really maybe to the property owner, just make sure that they understand, just like Ms. Crow read into the record, it's, the occupancy of this essentially second apartment with a full kitchen, everything, which, and, those are my words, but that's what it's going to be. Only family members, can't be rented out for gain, that kind of stuff. Okay?
Do you accept the 4 conditions as stated?
Yes, I do.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? This is a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak regarding this issue, please step to the podium at this time. All right, seeing no one, I would like to entertain a motion, please.
I make a motion to approve variance request V20-026, allow second kitchen in existing dwelling unit, land lot 524 at 3150 Lee Street.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly seconded that we approve variance request V20-026. All in favor, please vote by hand. All right, motion passes unanimously. Next item is a public hearing, variance request V20-027, front setback reduction from 35 feet to 17 feet, land lot 524, 3150 Lee Street. Gary Gilmer is here for the applicant. Any additional comments? Mr. Gilmer, any additional comments on your next variance request? Okay, all right. Ms. Caitlin Crow, okay. Mr. Gilmer, do you accept the 4 conditions as stated for item H? Did you pick that up in the mic, clerk? Okay, all right. Any questions? All right, this is a public hearing. If anyone has any questions or comments about variance request V20-027, please step forward. Seeing no one, I would like to entertain a motion, please.
Motion to approve variance request V20-027, front setback reduction from 35 to 17 feet. Land lot 524, 3150 Lee Street. Gary A. Gilmer is the applicant with the 4 conditions as read in the record by staff.
I second.
It's been motioned and properly seconded that we approve variance request V20-027. All in favor, please vote by hand. All right, motion passes unanimously. Next item is a public hearing, variance request V20-028, driveway setback reduction from 5 feet to 0 feet, land lot 524, 3150 Lee Street. Gary A. Gilmer is here for the applicant. Any additional comments? Okay, Ms. Caitlin Crow, okay. Mr. Gilmer, do you accept the 4 conditions as stated for item I? Okay, all right. No questions, right? All right, this is a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak regarding this item, please step forward at this time. All right, seeing no one, I would like to entertain a motion, please.
I make a motion to approve variance request V20-028, driveway setback reduction from 5 feet to 0 feet, land lot 524 at 3150 Lee Street.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly seconded that we approve variance request V20-028. All in favor, please vote by hand. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Next item, item J, public hearing, variance request V20-029. Allow the installation of a 20,000-gallon above-ground fuel tank, land lot 687, 2000 West Manor Road, FedEx Freight Incorporated. Good morning.
Yes, ma'am. I'm Ronald Lynch with the Lynch Group. I'm representing FedEx.
And that last name was Flinch?
Lynch.
Lynch, okay, all right.
L-I-N-C-H.
Okay, all right. Mr. Lynch, can you tell us about your variance request, please?
Currently, what's at the facility, or for as far as fuel tanks goes, 2 underground 20,000-gallon diesel tanks. Also, a smaller 8,000-gallon new oil tank, and a 2,300-gallon used oil tank, all underground storage tanks. Those tanks have met their useful life and need to be closed at this time. Closure of underground storage tanks is either by excavation, removal, and backfilling, or an in-place closure, which it depends on the situation and how the state allows that to be done. You have to do a full environmental assessment of the underground conditions and make sure that everything's clean, and if not, then you clean it before you do the closure. What we're proposing is to replace those with one 20,000-gallon above-ground storage tank for the diesel fuel, and then one 500-gallon tank for new oil and one 500-gallon tank for the used oil. The new tanks will be double-wall storage tanks, UL 2085 for the diesel tank and UL 142 rated for the new oil and the used oil tanks. They all meet the state fire marshal's requirements and meet all the current codes. Of course, the city has an ordinance about the underground, about above-ground tanks, so that's the purpose of the variance.
Any questions for the applicant?
Just one. Hey, good morning, Mr. Lynch. So you mentioned when you talked about its construction type being double wall, and you mentioned some standards that it was in compliance with. Could you get a little bit deeper into that and give us a sense for, I know that it's my understanding that the construction of above-ground tanks is significantly changed.
It has. There's with above-ground storage tanks nowadays, there's basically you've got 2 types. If you start off, you got shop fabricated, made in a factory, and then you have field-erected tanks, which are usually your large ones. The shop fabricated, very largest you'll see out there is 60,000 gallons, whether it's a horizontal or vertical tank. Field-erected tanks can be of any size. They're like the ones you see at Atlanta International, big, large, multi-million-gallon storage tanks. Those are all single wall. The big ones, very, very few of those are ever made double wall, but because the methods you have to manufacture those. The double wall tanks came about because in the environmental regulations, you have to have what's called secondary containment for all tanks above a certain size, which that means if the tank was to have a spill, you overfill it, you've got to have a way to capture that. So with single wall tanks, you basically build a dike area around the tank to capture the spill. That dike area under the federal EPA requirements specifies the size. It's got to be 110% of the capacity of the volume of the tank. So then when they came out with double wall tanks, it's basically a tank in a tank. And the UL 142 rated, if you were to cut that tank open, you'll have a narrow, about a quarter-inch space between the inner and the outer tank. And that way, if the inner tank leaks, it's captured with the outer tank. There's also an interstitial monitor in there to tell you, there's different ways you do it. Some are mechanical, some are electronic, that tells you if there's been a leak of that inner tank. If the outer tank was to get a hole in it, of course, you do visual inspections per EPA, again, federal EPA. You do weekly and monthly inspections and annual inspections of everything on the outside. Another type of tank is the UL 2085, which is what we would use at this facility. That is going to be a horizontal tank, double wall, but instead of having that small quarter-inch interstitial space, it's almost a 3-inch interstitial space, and that space is filled with heavy grout material. And that tank is made, it can set in a fire for 2 hours without anything happening to it. It's fire resistant, it's impact resistant, and that's what the UL code gets into on that tank. And actually in the regulations for trucking facilities, such as the FedEx facility there, that is the type of above ground tank that you have to use regardless of which way you want to go. So in the way UL actually tests them, as far as impact resistance, they actually have the way that it reads is you at a certain distance they actually shoot the tank with a 30-06, and they talk about the weight of the bullet, how much grams of powder, everything. Shoot it in the same spot 3 times, and to see if it can actually penetrate that outer shell of that tank. So they're tough tanks. You can hit them with a truck and they're going to stay there.
Thank you for that. And also, one other thing you had mentioned in your initial presentation, the types of closures and the necessity, and as you accurately stated as well, is the kind of the oversight of the removal of, closure of, and installation, and ultimately final approval and sign-off of the installation. That doesn't happen at the local level. That happens at the state level.
Correct. And underground storage tanks, the actual regulation comes from federal EPA.
Right.
And then that is delegated to most states. Not all states accepted the program.
Right.
Georgia did accept the program, so
right.
They dictate, and it's in the regs, everything about how you do the closure, soil testing, groundwater testing.
Right. My question is, you had mentioned the EPA or the environmental assessment, which determines,
Correct.
That's a requirement to see if there's any contaminated soil and stuff
Correct.
like that. Have you guys? Is that something that still has to be done, or is that already done?
That has to be done.
Okay. And that assessment will determine the type of closure?
Correct. Normally, you want to excavate and remove them if you can normally. If it's going to create a problem with the foundation of a building, if it's in a drive area or something, then you seek a in-place closure. You still have to do all of the assessments. You have to do soil borings. You have to clean the tank internally. You have to test it. There's numerous things. That tank is totally filled with grout.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and also, Madam Chair, just for the record, I would like to state that this is not first exposure for us at the fire department. Now we've got Deputy Fire Marshal Grubaugh here. This is something that, while it is true that the primary oversight and regulation is beyond the municipal level, obviously we're very involved, and I've asked for the Fire Prevention Division to take a look at this top, bottom, left, and right.
Yeah, and there's changes
You
coming.
going to be okay for it? What if we come out and shoot it with a 30-06?
I'll loan you mine.
We won't do that. But just for the record, Madam Chair, they're all on this, and they're in agreement with Ms. Crow's recommendation as well.
Thank you. Ms. Crow, you have comments?
All right, Caitlin Crow, Planner 1, Community Development. I don't know if I can myself go into as much detail as Mr. Lynch, but As Chief Akery mentioned, I do have Deputy Fire Marshal Tim Grubaugh here. He can answer any questions or elaborate on anything if I don't touch on it. So he may be speaking after I do. So this variance is V20-029 to allow the installation of a 20,000-gallon above-ground fuel tank. So this subject property is a 16-acre property located at the intersection of West Manor Road and Oakdale Road. It's currently occupied by a FedEx freight facility with several underground storage tanks that are currently there. So the new 20,000-gallon storage tank will be replacing two 25,000-gallon underground storage tanks, which have now reached the end of their life cycles. The diesel fuel to be stored in the new storage tank is classified as a flammable/combustible type 2 liquid. The installation of an above-ground storage tank of this type with this size and for the use stated is currently allowed by the state of Georgia, but just not by city code. So the applicant verified that the above-ground tank would be allowed with a correspondence to the Georgia State Fire Marshal's office. And the proposed storage tank is approximately 22 feet away from the closest building, which exceeds the fire marshal's recommendation of 15 feet. The new 500-gallon tanks that aren't included in the variance but are part of the project will not be used for fuel storage as they're replacing an existing 8,000-gallon new oil tank and a 2,300-gallon used oil underground tank, which have also reached the end of their life cycles. The liquids to be stored in the two 500-gallon tanks would fall into the Class 3 and or Class 3B, which are not currently prohibited by city code. The 4 underground storage tanks above will be permanently closed per all required regulations. This property has been properly posted with no site distance issues. And after reviewing the variance application, staff from Community Development and the Fire Marshal's office do support the request and recommend approval for a new 20,000-gallon above-ground fuel tank with the following condition. Approval of the requested variance shall be conditioned upon the development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan submitted with the variance application. And again, I do have Deputy Fire Marshal Tim Grubaugh here to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Crow or Mr. Grubaugh? Okay.
Tim, do you think we covered everything? Is there anything else additional you need to add?
Okay. All right. For Mr. Lynch, do you accept the one condition as stated? Okay. All right. Any other questions? This is a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak regarding this issue, please step to the podium at this time. All right. Seeing no one, I would like to entertain a motion, please.
Motion to approve variance request V20-029 to allow the installation of a 20,000-gallon above-ground fuel tank, land lot 687, 2000 West Manor Road for the FedEx Freight as the applicant, with the condition as read into the record by staff.
I'll second.
It's been motioned and properly seconded that we approve variance request V20-029. All in favor, please vote by hand. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Y'all have a good day.
You too. Next item, K, is a public hearing. Variance request V20-031 allows side setback reduction from 10 feet to 4 feet, land lot 625, 4020 Ridgehurst Road, Christina Prestera. I don't know if I butchered her last name, but I apologize.
Good morning. You actually got it correct.
Okay, thank you.
My name's Rich Prestera, her husband.
Okay, all right. And can you share with us information about this particular variance request, please?
Sure. We have, which we believe is an existing deck. It's about 6 feet by 12 feet, and it has 3 sets of stairs going to it, which is kind of ridiculous for a small deck like that. So we're looking to remove 2 sets of stairs and just expand the deck area without actually expanding the footprint of the deck.
So the deck where it sits now is at the 4-foot mark. It's going to be staying there. Those stairs that are there currently will stay there. We're just looking to expand the deck area by removing 2 sets of stairs.
Any questions for the applicant?
So if I'm understanding it right, the actual existing outer extension of the footprint of the deck is not going to change. You're just going to modify
It'll
it.
stay exactly the same.
Yeah.
The area where the 2 stairs are will be covered by we're just extending the actual deck area over those
Right.
2 sets of stairs.
Right.
And
So it's not
removing-
actually, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, well, this time we'll have Ms. Caitlin Crow give comments.
Caitlin Crow, Planner 1 Community Development. So this variance is V20-031 to reduce the side setback from 10 feet to 4 feet. So the subject property is at the intersection of Ridgehurst Drive and Cutler Ridge, kind of at the termination there on the corner. So the applicant is requesting a variance to reduce that side setback, to raise the kind of lower landing, one of those step areas, to make it level with the current deck surface. But Section 801 requires a side setback of 10 feet in R15 lots. So the subject property is currently occupied by a single-family home with an 84 square foot deck off the rear of the house. In this case, it kind of abuts the side property line. The deck currently has 3 sets of stairs, as Mr. Prestera mentioned, that lead from the side of the deck to the ground level, which does encroach into that side setback by about 6 feet. The proposed deck configuration will consist of a 175 square foot deck with just a single set of stairs going to the ground level. The applicant will not be changing the overall footprint of the deck, as he mentioned. Due to the unique geometry of the property and the location of the existing deck, the hardship isn't self-created in this case. Community Development believes that the variance proposed is the minimum variance needed and should have no negative impact on the adjacent properties. However, we do have one comment in opposition to this particular variance. This one has been properly posted with no site distance issues. After reviewing the variance application, staff does support the request and recommends approval to reduce the side setback from 10 feet to 4 feet with the following condition. Approval of the requested variance shall be conditioned upon the development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan submitted with the variance application. With that, I can answer any questions.
Any questions for the staff?
Thank you.
All right. This is a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak regarding this issue, please step to the podium at this time.
Good morning. My name is Kenneth Jones. I live in the property adjacent to 4020. I live at 4030 Ridgehurst Drive. I would ask that the encroachment not be allowed. The stairways that to the deck are not original to the house. They have been built within the previous 6 years that I live at 4030, and just recently noticed that encroachment and would like the encroachment corrected during the renovation project.
Okay. Thank you. For our staff, are you aware of any encroachment issues?
So the encroachment is into the side setback, so it's not actually going onto the neighbor's property, but it is within that 10-foot setback.
Okay.
So it's encroaching by 6 feet, leaving that 4-foot
Foot
setback
setback.
reduction.
Got it. Okay. All right.
Hey, Caitlin, while you're up there, I'm sorry. So just for again, we talked about this early on in the way these read versus reality.
Right.
It reads allow side setback reduction from 10 feet to 4 feet for this particular property, which would kind of, set the picture that, we're going to allow something to happen that isn't already there. But the reality is, and correct me if I'm wrong, This is what we would classify as an existing non-conforming. The encroachment is already at 4 feet. It's already there,
That is correct.
right? So it's existing and is non-conforming. Therefore, that's what has spawned this variance request on the agenda today, right?
Correct.
So, and it's also true that the applicant is not, through this proposed, change, is not going to encroach even further. They're going to keep the same exact encroachment as it currently exists.
Correct.
Right.
So any modification to an existing non-conforming use does need to conform to current code, or in this case, go through the variance process. So that is absolutely correct. It's an existing condition, but it is now having to go through this process now that he's looking to modify it.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? For the applicant, do you accept the one condition as stated?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. At this time, I would like to entertain a motion, please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve variance request V20-031, allow side setback reduction from 10 feet to 4 feet, land lot 625, 4020 Ridgehurst Road.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly seconded that we approve variance request V20-031. All in favor, please vote by hand. All right. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item L is a public hearing, variance request V20-032, allow additional accessory structure, land lot 556, 1400 Catherine Rose Lane. Scott McCrae is the applicant. Good morning.
Good morning.
For the record, can you please state your name?
My name is Paul Brown. I'm representing Scott McCrae at this meeting, the architect for the project.
Okay. All right. Can you please tell us about this variance request?
Well, since shelter in place began, the family's working from home. The kids are at home. They have 2 teenagers. The pool is in place, but there's no shade back there. So we would like to build a cabana, which would allow more outdoor activity and make it a workspace or an entertainment space for the family, seeing as how they only have a couple more years with their teenagers before they're gone, and we just don't know how long this shelter in place, so we're trying to make the living easier.
Any questions for Mr. Brown?
So, Mr. Brown, you described it as kind of as a, like a pool cabana, right? So what would that look like? Would it be enclosed on 4 sides? Does it have a roof? What does that look like?
It has a roof, and it's completely open on 3 sides. On the back, there's a closet, 6-foot wide closet that spans the width of it to put chairs,
Sure.
pool equipment, whatever.
That helps. Thank you.
All right. Well, at this time, we'll have our staff, Ms. Caitlin Crow, give comments about this item, please.
All right, Caitlin Crow, Planner 1, Community Development. So this variance is V20-032 to allow an additional accessory structure. This subject property is at the termination of Catherine Rose Lane in the new subdivision, The Grove at Forest Hills. The property is currently occupied by an existing single-family home and an in-ground swimming pool, which was put in earlier this year. Thus, the applicant does require a variance to allow the construction of a cabana as a second accessory structure. Section 501 controls the maximum allowable number of accessory structures. The accessory structure ordinance allows 1 per lot. Since there's already an existing pool, they will need this variance to construct a 512 square foot freestanding cabana to provide the shade and entertainment space that Mr. Brown mentioned while the family uses the existing in-ground pool. This subject property is buffered from the adjacent properties by an existing wooden 6-foot privacy fence And there is some vegetation that it has been planted to help the buffer area as well. Community Development has not received any calls in opposition to this request. It's been properly posted, and there's no site distance issues. Due to the size of the lot and that existing fence, Community Development believes the proposal will not adversely affect any of the neighboring properties. Therefore, staff does recommend approval of the requested variance with the following standard condition. Approval of the subject property for the requested variance shall be conditioned upon the development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan and elevations submitted with the variance application. With that, I can answer any questions.
Any questions for the staff?
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Brown, do you accept the one condition as stated? Okay, all right. This is a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak regarding this issue, please step to the podium at this time. All right, seeing no one, I would like to entertain a motion, please.
Motion to approve variance request V20-032, allow additional accessory structure, land lot 556, 1400 Catherine Ross Lane. Scott McCrae is the applicant.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly seconded that we approve variance request V20-032. All in favor, please vote by hand. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Next item M is a public hearing, variance request V20-033, reduce the side setback from 10 feet to 2 feet for a carport, land lot 554, 3647 Ashwood Drive, Cal and Jessica Stone. Okay. For the record, can you state your name?
My name is Kyle Stone.
Okay, all right. And Mr. Stone, can you tell us about your variance request?
Yes, we are requesting a reduction in the side setback from 10 feet to 2 feet in order to construct a new 760 square foot carport with a bonus room on the second floor on top of a currently existing non-conforming driveway that is already 2 feet from the property line.
Any questions for the applicant? Okay. Ms. Caitlin Crow, please.
All right, we've reached the last one of the day. So Caitlin Crow, Planner 1, Community Development. So this variance is V20-033 to reduce the side setback from 10 feet to 2 feet for a carport. So this subject property is located on the east side of Ashwood Drive. The applicant is requesting this variance to construct a carport with an above bonus room over an existing non-conforming driveway, which is currently only 2 feet from the property. Section 801 requires that side setback of 10 feet in R15 lots. So the carport will have 160 square feet of storage space at the ground level with a staircase that leads to 600 additional square feet for the bonus room on that second floor. The carport and bonus room is part of a larger renovation on the property where the existing one-story structure is only 1,400 square feet. The renovations will make it to 2,700 square feet, bringing it into compliance since the R15 zoning district does require a 2,000 minimum square foot home. Additionally, the adjacent building to the north will exceed the minimum 10 feet of separation from the subject property, thus no fire suppression system is warranted in this case. Due to the existing concrete driveway, since it's already there within that 2 foot setback, the most logical area to construct this carport would be within that side setback. This would decrease disturbance to the subject property and the surrounding neighbors. Strict application of the ordinance would deny the applicant the ability to add any covered parking area over that existing driveway. It has been properly posted with no site distance issues. So after a review of this application, Community Development believes that placing the carport in the side setback won't adversely impact any of their neighbors and does recommend approval of the requested variance with the following 2 conditions. Number 1, approval of the subject property for the requested variance shall be conditioned upon the development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan submitted with the variance application. And then number 2, gutters and downspouts will be installed to divert stormwater away from adjacent properties. This is because it is a structure so close to the property line. With that, I can answer any questions.
Any questions for the staff?
Thank you.
All right. And Mr. Stone, do you accept the 2 conditions as stated? All right. This is a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak regarding this issue, please step to the podium at this time. All right. Seeing no one, I would like to entertain a motion, please.
I make a motion to approve variance request V20-033, reduce the side setback from 10 feet to 2 feet for a carport, land lot 554 at the address 3647 Ashwood Drive.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly seconded that we approve variance request V20-033. All in favor, please vote by hand. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Next item is approval of the March 11th, 2020 License and Variance Board meeting minutes.
Motion to approve March 11, 2020 License and Variance Board meeting minutes.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly seconded that we approve the meeting minutes from March the 11th, 2020. All in favor, please vote by hand. All right, motion passes unanimously. I'd like to declare this meeting adjourned at 11:01 a.m. Thank you.